Hi. In this presentation, I will be illustrating why I believe that the 16th Round biography written by Rubin Carter is almost entirely factual, with there being a possibility of some minor fictional details. Just to briefly summarize the biography, the 16th Round was written in a prison cell by Carter himself. Carter was a black man who went from being a ruling contender for the World Middleweight Boxing Championship to living 19 years of his life behind bars for murder, which he was falsely accused of. The book details his brutal life story beginning when he was a child. He became a victim of the corrupt, racially charged American criminal justice system beginning at age 11, and he was repeatedly abused and impacted by it for the entirety of his life. At age 29, Rubin was wrongly accused and convicted of a triple murder and sentenced to 3 life prison terms. He wrote this book as a cry for help to the public in an attempt to convey the truth and force a new trial. To begin, it is a well-known fact that racial discrimination and disparities in the U.S. criminal justice system exist currently and has existed for quite some time. It would be ignorant and utterly incorrect to disagree with this reality. Rubin Carter was sentenced in 1966, and during this period, explicit racism in the criminal justice system was significantly more prevalent than it is today. Carter's story is one that we are fortunate enough to hear. However, there are countless amounts of African Americans that experienced incredibly similar situations and whose stories sadly go unnoticed. Therefore, Carter's story is not something unrealistic or far-fetched. Carter said in an interview that during his incarceration, he upheld his innocence to the extent that he, quote, refused to act like a guilty man. He refused to follow the rules of the prison. He would not wear the clothing, eat the food, or do any of the prison labor.
I wouldn't eat his food. I wouldn't wear its clothing. I wouldn't even acknowledge the guards or the warden or anyone. I wouldn't talk to a guard, see? Therefore, the vast majority of my time was spent in solitary confinement.
He said that he would have refused to even breathe the prison air if he could have done so and still kept his innocence alive. Because of his failure to obey the rules, Carter spent 10 of the almost 20 years he was in prison in solitary confinement. He says that there was, quote, no lights, no sanitary conditions, no toothbrush, no running water, 5 slices of stale bread to eat, and a cup of water to drink. There was no morning, no noon, no night, just different shades of darkness. Unless Carter was an absolute psychopath, which he truly was not, no person would ever put themselves through all of that torture and suffering if they were guilty. Carter went through 10 years of misery in solitary confinement because he was adamant about refusing to act like a guilty man. The utmost reason as to why I believe that this story is factual and Rubin Carter is reliable is that after almost 20 years of incarceration, Rubin ended up getting released from prison when a federal judge overturned his convictions. The judge stated that he found a pattern of prejudice and racism at the center of prior trials, and that, quote, the extensive record clearly demonstrates that the petitioner's convictions were predicated upon an appeal to racism rather than reason and concealment rather than disclosure. There was no forensic evidence to prove his guilt. The police arrested him because he fit the description of a black man in a white car. Also, the 2 eyewitnesses that initially identified Carter as guilty at the beginning of the case admitted to giving a false testimony. They confessed that they had tunnel vision on the cash reward money being offered for identifying the killers, and they lied as a result. One of the eyewitnesses also claimed that they were pressured by the police to declare Rubin as the killer, and that the police half-jokingly threatened them with being charged if they did not identify Carter. Rubin always maintained innocence throughout his entire imprisonment, which verifies his validity as he never lied and his alibi was proven truthful through his release. Although I do believe that the vast majority of the book is factual, it is also important to consider that Carter retells his entire life story from as early as age 9 with extreme detail and vivid descriptions. It is quite possible that Carter may have falsely remembered things or even fabricated certain details and composited or invented characters. It seems rather abnormal to have such a strong memory, although Carter did have plenty of time to think and reflect on his past while in prison. To conclude, I am confident that the majority of Rubin Carter's The 16th Round biography is truthful, but there may be some minor inaccuracies.